Okay, in this section, we're going to talk about what to sell. And you already know by watching not only my videos on YouTube, but other videos and just being out on the internet in general, literally anything can sell on eBay. The best strategy for a new seller is to start with things you already have. A news report came out, I think it was back in 2011, that said that the average household contains over $7,000 worth of items that can be sold online. And that was the average. Many homes contain much more, especially if you have recently inherited belongings from a loved one or know that you'll be dealing with an estate in the future, meaning maybe you've got parents in assisted living and their house hasn't sold and you're going to have to deal with it, or maybe your elderly parents are still in their home but downsizing is just too overwhelming for them, or it's just not possible because maybe they have health conditions and all of your energy is going into taking care of them on a daily basis, but you know that this is in front of you and you're going to have to deal with this at some point. So not only do you have your own stuff, but you're going to have your parents' lifetime of accumulation to deal with. And I do see a lot of that, which is why I'm mentioning it, because baby boomers, especially, and even some older Gen Xers that have this huge task in front of them. And that's one of the reasons they're learning eBay, is because they want to be able to sell these items and make some money on it and possibly get some collectible items into the hands of collectors who will appreciate and enjoy those items. So be aware that most people, especially Gen X and baby boomers, can spend 6 to 18 months going through their homes selling what they already have before they ever need to buy items to resell. I know a lot of you are self proclaimed thrifting experts, and this is part of the reason you want to do eBay. But I'm going to encourage you to put that on hold while you work through your own home and sell things you already have for several reasons. The first one is we live in a society of accumulation. You have already spent the money on the possessions in your home. Leverage that accumulation to your advantage. So you've already paid for all this stuff over the past years and decades, and it's just sitting there. So before you spend any more money on inventory, deal with what you already have and start making money on that before you go out and intentionally buy things for resale, because you're never going to run out of things to buy for resale. That is not going to stop anytime soon. There will always be things to buy. The second reason is because you will learn as you go, and that's really important. You're going to learn how to do this process, and it's better to learn on things you already have. And I encourage you to start with inexpensive items, less than $50, so you can get the hang of it. I'm going to explain more about that later in the course, what kinds of items to avoid selling that can get you into trouble. Also, you will have selling limits, so the dollar amount of what you can list may be restricted, and I'll go into that in more detail later also. But these two things together are very important, and you want to start with inexpensive items while you learn, so no reason to buy anything. Also, the third reason is those selling limits. You don't want to use up all of your available dollars on just a few items, and this is something a lot of new people do, is they want to sell that expensive piece of jewelry or that expensive camera or a high dollar collectible because they need money right away. And that's not a great idea, because when you're new, you don't want to sell expensive items because you can be a target for a lot of different things. But you may only have $2,000 selling limit, and you don't want to use all of that up on two or three things because you can't list any more items. So those selling limits are in place for a reason, and I'll get into that topic a little bit later. The fourth reason is You're going to make mistakes. So make them on items that don't cost anything, things that you already had lying around the house that are low dollar items. You want to learn on the low dollar items. And just like you're learning anything, you're going to make mistakes. It's all about how you handle that and how you move on from them and what you learn, not trying never to make a mistake, because that's just not going to happen. The fifth thing is that you're going to save time. You won't be out there wandering around a thrift store like a lost sheep trying to guess what to buy for resale and trying to figure out this process, and you're new at research and you're new at selling and you're new at all of it. And that's a very stressful situation. So work with what you already have in your house. The sixth thing is you will figure out what kinds of items sell well. So when it is time to buy things, you'll know what works. And I say this all the time, figure out what works and do more of it. You'll figure out, oh, I don't really like selling clothing. That's a lot of trouble putting it on the mannequin and trying to make it look nice and measuring it. Or for me, I don't like breakables, sets of glasses and dishes and all those kind of things that require a lot of packaging. I just don't like that. So you're going to learn all of that about yourself and what you want to do by working through your own stuff. The seventh reason is kind of the same idea, is what kind of items you like to work with and which ones you don't. Some people hate shoes because they don't like cleaning them, they don't like touching them, they can't get past the ick factor of used shoes. Some people don't like really small items because they're hard to see and they're hard to photograph, or they don't like jewelry because it's hard to photograph it and make it look good. That kind of thing. So not only will you figure out what sells well, but you'll figure out what you do and don't like to work with. And the objective here is to figure out what you like and what makes you happy so that you enjoy this business, or you're not going to want to do it every day. And that's the whole purpose of this, is building a business that you love so you can have a life that you love. It's a wonderful lifestyle. Okay, number 8, you'll figure out how to ship things and what kinds of shipping supplies you need to keep on hand. So my advice here is to start with items that are small, not breakable, and easy to package. Keep the shipping part easy, and there's a whole section on shipping coming up. We'll go over the basics, but you're learning a lot of different moving parts of eBay at first. So keep it simple until you master all these different areas, and then you can grow from that and add different layers to it. And it's really not hard to learn shipping, it's just another layer of something to learn. Okay, and this is a real important one. You'll be taking the burden off of your children or whoever will eventually handle your estate. Downsizing your stuff is responsible, empowering, liberating, and a loving and considerate thing to do for your family. The emotional part of a death is already stressful and difficult, so you won't be adding mountains of stuff to the process for your surviving loved ones. And I saw this situation a lot during my short time in a real estate job. Back in 2015, I took on some project work to help a real estate agent set up his social media and do different things with his business. And one of my responsibilities that I willingly took on was helping people get their homes listed and helping them go through the process of what you need to do to get your home listed. And part of it was cleaning out a lot of their stuff. And they would have estate sales. And a lot of times it was the grown children of someone who was in assisted living or had a terminal illness or had just died. And it was very hard on them to deal with an ill parent and all of their parents' stuff. It was a very emotional and hard thing to do. So I didn't want to do that to my kids. And I was kind of in the process of downsizing anyway, but going through that and seeing how hard it was on these people that just were in their 50s and 60s, and they had a life and they had a job and they had grown kids that were in college or getting married and lots of things going on in their lives. And then this burden was put upon them to deal with their aging parents' stuff. And it was very difficult for the family. And actually, my ex husband's parents are the worst pack rats ever. And they won't get rid of anything. And they're in their 80s. And this is going to fall on my kids to help clean out their house one day. And I actually talked to my ex mother-in-law about it and said, oh, you should start going through that stuff now, and Melanie can sell things online for you, and you can start tackling that now. And she was just, no, it's too overwhelming. I don't want to do it. And she can't see that one day it's going to fall on her kids and grandkids to tackle this home they've been in since the 70s, that's just full of every single kindergarten drawing that her kids did, and just it's full of everything. They don't get rid of anything. So that's going to be hard. So I'm telling you these stories because I want you to think ahead of what you're leaving behind. And why not sell it now? Get the money for it now, whether you spend it on yourself or put it in the bank or leave it to your surviving family members, whatever you're going to do with it. Don't leave the burden of this to someone else, because they're already going to be dealing with an emotional time with your passing. And hey, nobody's getting out of this alive. We're all going to have to die one day, and we can't take anything with us. So let's get busy selling it so you can enjoy the benefits of the cash flow, and you're doing your loved ones a huge favor by lessening the burden of dealing with your stuff. And I didn't mean to get off onto a morbid tangent, but that is reality. None of us are getting out of this alive is basically the bottom line. So exactly what will sell. And this is where your premium library membership is going to pay for itself, because I have a lot of resources where you can get an education about what sells. I'm not going to go into that in this video because it would never end, basically. So if you want to check out the section called Things to Sell, there are many different courses in there. I've got a coffee mugs course, some household items, just a little ebook I did years ago, but it's still relevant. Medical items that you may not be aware of. There's a needlework course. That's great. People are making a lot of money selling needlework, so that's one you might not have thought of. Niche items of the month. I try to do one of these every month. Sometimes it's every other month, but you can see there's quite a few there of items that you may not realize have any value. There's also a printable list of those, so you can print that out and look at the pictures. There's a section called What is this and how much is it worth? Common items that you might be seeing in thrift stores that you don't even know what they are, what they are for, what their names are, and I explain what they are and how much they sell for. And then there's a section of thrift shopping lists that you can print out. And I know I just told you don't go to the thrift store, but you may have these items in your home already, and you can start learning what to look for when it's time for you to go shopping and buy inventory. But these lists are organized by topic. They contain images so you can learn what things look like, as well as how much they sell for, both best case scenario and then kind of an average value. So in addition to all of my information on YouTube, what I've done here is consolidated all of that scattered information into very organized lists and categories so that you can learn what you want to learn. So the next step is to learn how to research pricing, and that will be the next segment of this course.